Hi, I'm Lisa Prysock, and I'd like to share a little bit more with you about Annabelle. Some research and behind the scenes background information. Annabelle is book 2 in the Brides of Grace Hill series. Geneva is book 1. The story centers around the Rosemont women, and the Rosemonts originated in France. They were landed gentry in France, northern France. And they had 3 children, Jonathan, Millie, or Millicent, and James. Jonathan settled in Scotland, in Edinburgh. Millie married Colonel Bradford and moved to Kentucky. And James Rosemont became a vicar and settled in Cardiff, Wales. So that's a little bit of background about the early Rosemonts. And book 1 is about the youngest Rosemont son's daughter, Geneva. And book 2 is about the oldest son's daughter, Annabelle. The setting for both of the first 2 books in this series is the antebellum era. And this series does tie in with Protecting Miss Jenna, and the Worthington plantation is a neighboring plantation to Grace Hill. So a lot of the research that I did for Protecting Miss Jenna has helped me with this series as well. The setting for Annabelle is 1858, and just a few research tidbits to share with you about that. So it's 1858, and James Buchanan is president. He followed Benjamin Pierce, and the 1850 Fugitive Slave Act has caused the Underground Railroad to thrive in response to it, because people just disagree with it. And Harriet Beecher Stowe's Uncle Tom's Cabin, that book played a huge part in what the Christian response to slavery should be, and it really called for the abolition of slavery. And so it's during this time period that Annabelle and Geneva both have arrived in Kentucky, and Annabelle comes from Scotland because Aunt Millie is matchmaking again. She's the daughter of Jonathan Rosemont, and so the political climate is just very hot. The nation has just witnessed the Douglas-Lincoln debates for the Senate seat for the state of Illinois, and Lincoln's turning point speech at Cincinnati. And although he didn't win the debates, the Lincoln-Douglas debates, he did gain national attention and momentum, which helped him when he stepped up to accept the Republican Party nomination for the run for the presidency. And states like Kentucky, where Lincoln was from, they had everything going on in this state. They had abolitionists. They had people that were completely against slavery and didn't own slaves. And they had many slave owners in the state. So the brother against brother scenario was a very real concern to Lincoln and the congressional leaders when it came to the Civil War. An interesting thing to me about the antebellum era time and Lincoln and Kentucky. Lincoln was friends with 2 brothers from Louisville, Kentucky. And of course, Lincoln was a Kentucky boy. But I did visit the Speed Plantation here in Louisville, Farmington, where he visited his friends Joshua and James Speed, brothers and sons of John Speed, who was a judge in this area. And he and his wife Lucy had 11 children, and I believe Joshua was like the 5th of the 11th children. And James was a lawyer, his brother, and Joshua was a merchant in Springfield, Illinois, where he'd met Lincoln. And Lincoln visited Farmington when he had broken off his engagement with Mary Todd. And he came and stayed at Farmington for about 30 days to recover from his depression and regain his health, and spent quite a bit of time with Joshua and James while he was here. And it is said that he stayed in the top left room in the house, or possibly the right room in the front of the house, on the lower level. And he was helpful to Joshua, who was pursuing a courtship with a girl named Fanny. And when Joshua wanted to see Fanny, he would visit her at her uncle's house. And it is said that Lincoln went with him on one of these visits and spent time distracting the uncle so Joshua could have time with Fanny. And Lincoln did marry Todd after that, and Joshua did go on to marry Fanny. And the Speed brothers went on to become absolutely vital in helping Lincoln gain support for the Union and in helping through the Civil War. Lincoln did send weapons from D.C. to Louisville, and Joshua and James Speed hid the weapons in the basement at the Jefferson County Courthouse, which is just a few miles from my home. So I thought that was some interesting research to share with you. Another interesting thing is that Lucy Speed, Judge Speed's widow, she had given an Oxford Bible to Lincoln while he was staying there and said, read this and pray for the promises in this Bible to become a reality in your life. So I believe she was very instrumental in Lincoln's walk with the Lord. And a couple more interesting things about the Speed brothers and the Speed family. Lucy, Judge Speed's wife, was friends with Thomas Jefferson, and he had designed the plans for Farmington. And the Speed brothers continued to maintain a friendship after the Civil War with Lincoln and during the Civil War, and Lincoln offered both of them positions in government. Joshua declined, but James went on to be the United States Attorney General. And so they were very instrumental throughout the Civil War, and especially to those here in Louisville. In fact, they even went to the center of town and spoke on Lincoln's behalf, urging Kentucky to join the side of the Union. And that's just really a very tiny bit of background information about what was going on in the political climate and some of the information about Kentucky and the Civil War and the backdrop for the Grace Hill, Brides of Grace Hill series.